everything you know is a lie. Okay, it's not really a lie. That's a bold statement, but it's not the truth. But before we get into it, I'm going to pose a question. Food for thought. Think on this one. If the only person on Earth had schizophrenia, what would reality be? Welcome to my little crash course on the intersection between biology, psychology, quantum mechanics, and religion/spirituality, because believe it or not, there is actually a common space between these things, and it is consciousness/reality. Now, full transparency, I only have a degree in one of these fields. Technically don't have the degree yet, but I'm like 3 tests away, I'm gonna pass. But I've always been particularly interested in the nature of like consciousness and reality. And funnily enough, all 4 of these circles kind of go to show that there is no such thing as reality as we perceive it. Like what we are seeing, what we are hearing, what we are touching, this is not reality. Or reality is really just a consensus lie that we are all agreeing upon. But I feel like in order to like actually get to grips with this, there are a couple of fundamental concepts that we are gonna have to go over. The first one's pretty basic, but it's evolution. So evolution is probably the best theory that we have for how we came to be and how every other species came to be. And if you missed level 2 bio, the gist of it is that survival of the fittest, right? So the individuals that are best suited to their environments or their niches are those who end up surviving and then passing on their genes to the future generation. So they kind of weed out all of the weak ones and only the strong ones get to reproduce, right? This is going to become very important when we start talking about human psychology. The second key idea is one from quantum mechanics, and it is particle superposition. Superposition can be really hard to understand, so I'm going to break it down in like a metaphor. But basically, when you flip a coin, right, and the coin is spinning in the air, the coin is both heads and tails at the same time, right? It hasn't had its outcome yet. So they found out that electrons and protons actually behave this way as well, meaning they don't have like one definitive state until they are observed. So this leads into the observer effect, which they figured out by performing the double slit experiment, which is super famous now, where basically they sent a particle through a double slit, right? And when nobody was watching, the particle going through the slit would behave like a wave, meaning it goes through both slits. But when measured, the particle collapses and only went through one slit, which basically means that the way that you observe or perceive something changes that outcome. You can look this up, like they've done this experiment so many times. And this is kind of starting to sound a bit like manifestation and spirituality and all of that. But we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with human psychology, because this is actually like where the gears started turning for me. So I've learned in my courses this year and last year that what we are perceiving is only 0.00000 something % of what is actually happening around us. And that is because the brain is only built to perceive and integrate information about the world around us that is directly relevant to our survival and reproduction. Which makes sense because it's the same for every other animal, right? Like every other animal has different sets of sensory organs that allow them to reproduce and survive within their ecological niches. Now, we also know that these animals have the ability to see and perceive and hear, etc., things that we cannot. For example, dogs can hear sound frequencies that we can't, and lobsters can see 4 times as many colors as we can. Again, look it up. They've done heaps of studies to prove this. So what that implies is that there are literally things that we are not seeing, hearing, or perceiving that are happening around us, and that our brains are only set or hardwired to perceive things that are directly relevant for our environment. And so everything that we know in science and literally every other field is based off of perception that is only this tiny little slice of the pie of everything that's going on, right? Like we know for a fact that we are not seeing everything that's happening. Okay, so that's all of the basics. Let me know if you want a part 2.